Okay, so in the morning session, we have seen three cases regarding the shoe brake. So based on the fulcrum position and the tangential braking force. So accordingly, three small equations we have seen. So continuing in the same, so we have seen that with respect to fulcrum and the tangential braking force, so this is the first case number 2. So when the line of action of the tangential braking force, that is Ft, passes through a distance a below the fulcrum and anticlockwise rotation of the brake wheel. Then case third, when the line of action of the tangential braking force Ft passes through a distance a above the fulcrum O, and here it is clockwise rotation of the brake wheel. So this is rotating in anti-clockwise, this is rotating in the clockwise, and there is difference with respect to this Ft and with respect to this fulcrum. Here in the first case, now you can consider this as the first and this one as the second. So this Ft is below the fulcrum and here Ft is above the fulcrum. So when brake drum rotate in anti-clockwise direction in case number 2 and clockwise direction in the case number 3, this already we have seen, Rn is equal to PL upon X minus mu A. So this equation we got, that is same. So from this equation लास्ट लेक्चर मध्ये बघितलं आपण. सो फर्स्ट केस काय होती आपली, टँजेन्शियल फोर्स हा फलक्रम मधून जात होता. सेकंड केस fulcrum above the tangential force line and here fulcrum below the tangential force line. So these equations we have derived. So from these two cases, this Rn is equal to PL upon X minus mu A, and this normal reaction is same when fulcrum is above the line of action of tangential braking force and drum is rotating in the anti-clockwise direction, and when fulcrum is below the line of force of tangential braking force and drum is rotating in the clockwise. This is the Ra. So from this we can get this P is equal to Rn into X minus mu A divided by L. This is value of P. Then from this equation, if X is less than or equal to mu, so this is X, and if it is less than or equal to mu, then the effort P becomes negative. Efforts P become negative or 0. Thus, no effort is required to apply the brake, and hence brakes are self-energizing, or you can call it as a self-locking. So, therefore, the condition for self-locking is x less than or equal to mu a. So in that case, here we can get the value of P as a negative or 0. So we can call it as a self-locking brake. Then this is second one, that is self-energizing brake. Here the same equation we are using. This is Rn with respect to this anti-clockwise rotation of the brake wheel and clockwise rotation of the brake wheel. And now we are going to consider here self-energizing. What is self-energizing brake? So this is value of P just by rearranging the terms. Then from this we can have cross multiplication P into L. This is written here. Rn into x, just the bracket is expanded, Rn into x minus Rn into mu into A, and is equal to P here. So Rn into x is equal to PL plus Rn mu A. So from this is the left hand side, this is applied force through distance x, and this is added force. So from this we can say that moment of frictional force adds to the moment of moment force. So P into L, and this is added here for this situation and for this situation. So if drum is rotating in anti-clockwise direction, and if drum is rotating in clockwise direction, and if fulcrum and the tangential braking force having the situation shown here and having the situation shown here, this arrangement we can get additional friction force, and that can help to the to apply the brake, and such types of brakes are called as a self-energized brake. For this, P is greater than 0. So in the previous case, what we have seen, P is negative or 0. That is called as a self-locking brake. P is negative or 0. That is called as a self-locking brake. And in this case, P is, so this we have seen. So P becomes negative or 0. Thus no effort is required to apply the brake. That is called as self-locking brake. And here in this case, value of P is greater than 0. You should remember this condition. So another one more slide related to this I want to show, and it is from this. You can see this. Okay. Here, leading and trailing shoe. So that is one of the concept from the automobile. So intentionally I have shown here. Now this is the drum. So here this is rotating clockwise, and at the same time, to apply the brake, there is cam. In this way force is provided. In this way force is provided. So this will be move in opposite direction. हे anti-clockwise direction मध्ये move होणार हा shoe. So shoe number 1 and I will say here shoe number 2 आणि हा clockwise मध्ये. So drum is rotating in clockwise direction and at the same time this is pivot point or we can call it as an anchor point. This one is anchor point and shoe is expanding in this way. And what is this? It is clockwise and it is also clockwise. So this shoe is called as a leading shoe, makes contact with drum here and pulling leading shoe more tightly against the drum. So this is called as a self-energizing operation. Now with respect to this another brake shoe, it is in the opposite direction, it is expanding. So and drum is rotating in the clockwise. So it will try to push. So you can see this trailing shoe makes contact with the drum here, but rotation of drum forces shoe away. म्हणजे ह्या शू मधला किंवा हा जो लाइनर आहे त्याच्यामधला आणि या ड्रम मधला कॉन्टॅक्ट याच्याबद्दल डिस्टन्स वाढणार and with respect to this इथं घट्ट पकड असणार, right? So that's why it is called as the energization. So that's why in some of the automobiles this self-energizing principle is used by providing two brake shoe as shown in the figure. So this is a rotating drum and it is rotating in clockwise direction. So just I will draw shoe. This one is shoe. It is expanding in this direction. And here another shoe is pivoted and this is pivot point. This one is pivot point. It is expanding in this direction and it is expanding in this direction. So this is clockwise and this is also expanding in the clockwise. So such phenomenon is called as self-energization and that is useful in applying the brakes. So in modern automobiles such type of self-energizing system it is provided. Okay. Then in case of self-energizing P is greater than 0 and in case of self-locking P is less than 0 or 0. Okay. So this is about the shoe brake. Now pivoted block and shoe brake. So you can check this. So just I will read for your information. So previously we have seen this 2 theta is less than 60. 2 theta is less than 60. So just I will show that. If angle of contact is less than 60 and this assumption we have made, it may be assumed that normal pressure between block and the wheel is uniform, and by assuming that normal pressure between block and wheel is uniform, we have derived this braking force derivation and braking torque derivation. Now in this case, this is another case where we are going to consider that angle of contact is greater than, okay, when the angle of contact is greater than 60 degree, then the unit pressure normal to surface of contact is less than at the ends than at the center. So previously the angle considered was less than 60. So this is less than 60, and in that case this one is block. So this block is applying the uniform pressure that we have achieved. Now in this case, that is theta greater than is 2 theta greater than 60, and this is the case. In this case, the unit pressure normal to the surface of contact is less than at the ends than the center. So there is difference between the applied pressure at these ends and at the center. So by considering that, so TB is equal to FT into R. This is called as a mu dash into Rn into R. So mu dash is equal to equivalent coefficient of friction. So you should remember this equation. So derivation is not important. So here mu dash is equal to 4 mu sin theta divided by 2 theta plus sin 2 theta. This you should remember. Then another type of brakes, that is double block or shoe brake. So in case of single block brake, this is rotating wheel and this one is the block. With the help of lever, we can apply the brake at this contact surface. So additional load is thrown on the shaft bearing due to the normal force. So this one is the axle on which wheel is mounted. In another view, you can consider like this. So this is one axle and this is wheel, this one is wheel, and inside which there is drum, inside which there is drum, and wheel is mounted with the help of the bearing. So additional load will come onto the bearing and this will try to bend the shaft. Now how to avoid that? So such type of double block are used, and in case of double block, so whatever braking action in the single block we are getting, suppose we are getting braking torque 100 Newton meter in case of the single block. Here we can get twice the quantity whatever we are getting in the single block. So the braking action is doubled by use of two blocks, and these blocks may be operated practically by the same force. Whatever force required, that will be the same one. So whatever required for the single block, and this with the help of that force we can operate the two blocks, and this braking torque will be doubled as force, tangential braking force produced by first block and tangential force braking force produced by second block, summation of these two into R. So Ft1 and Ft2 braking forces on the this two blocks. So this is about the double block and the shoe brake. Okay. Now next one, so derivation and the equations will not be asked for the MCQ. So that's why just I am taking the some of the important part. Now these two figures indicating simple band brakes. Simple band brakes. So band brakes consist of a flexible band of leather, one or more ropes or steel lined with the frictional material, which embraces a part of circumference of the drum. So such type of arrangement is called as a band brake. So in case of the simple band brake, one end of band is attached to fixed pin. So here it is attached to the fixed pin or the fulcrum. So at the O you can consider it as a fulcrum, and while other end is attached to lever at a distance B. So this one is the point B from the fulcrum. So this point is fulcrum and this one is the another point. So here T1, that is tension in the tight side of the band. T2 is tension in the slack side of the band. Theta, angle of lap. So from this point to this point, this angle is called as a theta, or angle of embrace of the band on the drum. Mu, coefficient of friction between the band and the drum, and R, a radius of the drum, and T is nothing but the thickness of the band. So based on the direction of rotation of the drum, this T1 and T2, they are going to be changed. So if drum is rotating in clockwise direction, this T1 is tension in tight side. Here, if drum is rotating in anti-clockwise direction, this one is the T1. So T1 in the previous case, it is with respect to this point B, and now T1 is with respect to this point O. So drum, this one is shaft and this one is the band. So based on the direction of rotation of the brake drum, these tensions are going to be changed. So such simple band brakes are used in case of the automobile. So for the parking purpose or for the okay. So you can take this. So such type of brakes we are going to call it as a mechanical brake. So generally these hand brakes or band brakes are used on the rear drum, rear wheels, and we are just applying with the help of the lever in the driver's cabin. This one is the cable which is required to be stretched, and these are the secondary cable. So the same arrangement, so whatever shown in the PPT, so with respect to our this, it is like this, it is made for the handbrake or the parking brake. Now this is about the required important things with respect to the brake. So my request to all the students, they should study all the MCQs along with the notes. By today evening, I will give you scanned copy of the notes. So whatever important theory bits that you can read. Wait for 1 minute. Lecture is not over. Now next chapter, that is balancing. It is from the second section. Now you might have seen The automobile wheels, for them there is one regularly done services in that wheel balancing and the alignment that you might have heard. So with respect to this one is the short chapter, static and dynamic balancing of rotary masses and balancing of the single cylinder engine. Now with respect to the balancing, first you should know that what is static unbalance, and then we can go for the balancing or definition of the balancing. Now figure indicates, so this is one disc, it is mounted on one shaft and these two blocks are there and one mass is attached here. Now as this mass is attached here, every time if you are going to rotate this wheel, it will when it will become stationary, this will be the position. इथे ऍडिशनल मास अटॅच केल्यामुळं ह्या बाजूला मास जास्त असल्यामुळं प्रत्येक वेळेस हे डिस्क आणि हा शाफ्ट याची पोझिशन अशीच मिळणार अँड द सेम इज शोन हिअर. नाउ ड्यू टू द अनबॅलन्स what will happen? So I will take one more slide to show you. So this is one disc, this one is shaft, and above this disc tire is provided like this, and this one is the disc or simply the ring. Now suppose this is the wheel, this wheel is moving on the straight road, and suddenly if there is one bounce in the road and if vehicle or this wheel is moving with faster speed, then because of this obstacle the disc may get damaged like this, right? So because of this what will happen, whatever center of rotation and mass center, there will be change, right? So with respect to this, so static unbalance is defined as the eccentricity of the center of gravity of rotor caused by point mass at a certain radius from the center of rotation. So this one is the disc, this is center of rotation, and this one is the CG. इथं मास अटॅच केल्यामुळे हा CG इकडच्या बाजूला ट्रान्सफर झाला. In another view, this one is axis of rotation and this one is the line passing through the axis of line passing through the CG. So this much eccentricity is there. So static unbalance is defined as eccentricity of center of gravity of rotor caused by point mass at certain radius from the center of rotation. सेंटर ऑफ रोटेशन मधून जी लाईन जाईल आणि CG मधून जी लाईन जाईल ह्या दोघांमध्ये इसेंट्रिसिटी असेल तर दॅट विल कॉज द static unbalance. Now, suppose unbalance is created because of such extra mass at one end. Then how to compensate this? We are going to put another mass here. So that is written here. So balancing an equal mass placed at 180 degree to the unbalanced mass and at the same radius, that will restore the center of gravity to the center of rotation. Now in this case, this one is center of rotation and the same one is CG. Another case, here this is additional mass, this one is CG and this one is the center of rotation. So how to place center of rotation and CG at the same point? For that, balancing is required. So static balancing involves resolving primary forces into one plane. So that is again graphical method that we are going to check just, but our aim is to get something regarding the MCQ. So you might have seen that there are many rotating components such as flywheel, such as grindstones, again car wheel, etc. So if such wheels are having unbalance, then that will create the vibration, that will create the noise. So balancing is the procedure with which an attempt is made to improve the mass distribution. So what is balancing? It is the process of attempting to improve the mass distribution of rotor so that it rotates in its bearing without uncompensated centrifugal force. Now, if additional mass, or you can see this and for time being, if there is damage to this portion, then there will be eccentricity. How to maintain this? By providing compensation for this damaged component by adding or by subtracting, because mass, additional mass in certain direction, that will generate centrifugal force, and that centrifugal force, how to compensate? By providing the mass component in opposite direction, that is at 180 degree to the unbalanced mass. So this is usually done by adding compensating masses to the rotor at prescribed location, and it also can be done by removing fixed quantities of material by for example by the drilling. So suppose this is one disc and it is manufactured. So due to the density difference with respect to the material, some portion gets wide, कुठे कुठे पोकळी असणार आहे, त्याच्यामुळं याचा सेंटर ऑफ मास, it is not compensating with the center of the rotation. So for that reason we need to go for the balancing. is only for your understanding. Difference between static and dynamic balancing. So before that, I would like to show okay. So here first case, balancing of single rotating mass by single mass rotating in the same plane. So this is one example. So this is M1, this one is M2, having a radius, it is located at R2 radius, M1 is located at R1 radius. So generally these are the schematic diagrams, but for the wheel, such wheels, there is unbalance. हा एक आपण पॉइंट ह्या सेंटर पासून पकडूया, हा R1 असेल at R1 distance. Then another point which is at R2 distance. So this one is disturbing mass at radius R1. So you can consider this as a side view and this as a front view. So from this side and this side, and this is axis of rotation. So to this disturbing mass, we are going to provide the balancing mass just to compensate the centrifugal force produced by this disturbing mass, and in the opposite direction, that you can check in this first figure. So the centrifugal forces are proportional to the product of mass and the radius of rotation, because omega is same for each of the mass. So generally centrifugal force is given like this, mr omega square. So as both the masses are rotating with same angular velocity, this can be neglected. So therefore Cf is equal to this m into r, so that is important. So this will be asked for the MCQ. The centrifugal forces are proportional to the product of mass and the radius of rotation of respective masses, because omega square is same for each of the mass. Now you can type your roll number in chat box. So remaining part focused on the MCQ that we will take tomorrow.